And a cricket track in the background.
Recording has started. I'm sitting in Sierra Vista, Arizona. The time is 9:30 p.m., December 16th. This was a spontaneous trip. I've been on the road now for over a week, traveling the great state of Arizona, dealing with anomaly after anomaly of anger and weirdness. The population in Arizona seems to be taking a odd change that I don't recall from last times I've been here. Of course, I spend a lot of the time in Sedona when I'm here, but long story short, several verbal altercations occurring throughout the day. Angry people, road rage. Want to get to the bottom of that. Why is that occurring in Arizona? Is it because people are sheltered inside long periods of time in the summer, scorching heat, scorching brain cells, scorching all sense of etiquette? But the weirdest thing that's occurring right now is that I've got this speaker above me. I'm sitting in a hotel lobby, and the hotel lobby attendant has now been MIA for 30 minutes. Nobody there. I was knocking on the door. I was calling several times. Nobody picked up. Slightly concerned, actually, that the young lady maybe is truly missing. So I'm going to call one more time and see if we get an answer, while we sit under the speaker listening to variations of whatever you call this. What is this? Mamas and the Papas?
No, this isn't Mamas and the Papas. This is
Here we go. Christmas music. This is the third attempt to reach somebody at the desk to ask kindly, as a Diamond member, may I please have a moment of silence? You can hold the snacks, you can hold the drinks. May I please just have a little peace and quiet at 9:30 at night in the lobby? But we can't seem to get a hold of anyone. What's the deal here? Perfect. So I'm sitting in a hotel lobby in Sierra Vista, Arizona, which is a stone's throw from the Mexican border. And my time in Arizona this week has been everything odd. Yeah. People here, there is something going on where people are just oddly very angry and weird.
Do you think it has anything to do with the holiday, man? Because I just came off the road, and everybody seems to have a certain degree of a need to be somewhere immediately, and they're mad that they're where they're at that current time. Because I'm seeing it's in the air, man. It was some weird vibes over here. So maybe it's a holiday thing.
It could be.
Yeah, people get stressed out around this time of year, man. Traffic's super crazy. I mean, it's last minute shopping, perhaps. I don't know, but I can feel it. It's palpable.
It's possible. It's frozen again. I'm gonna cancel this one and start it again.
Okay.
All right, I'll start it right back up.
Hey,
Natalie.
It's gonna cut half of our faces off.
It's fantastic to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been driving. She's been on the road all day.
Yeah. Started my day at 3:30 a.m.
Oh, you one of those psychos that gets up that early like him?
Not intentionally, not usually that early, but I had to catch a plane, from Indiana to Arizona.
Okay. Well,
let me tell you a little. What's that?
Probably a little bit warmer at the very least. Better weather.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a lot colder. I left snow. So
You're probably used to it. No thing.
Yeah, snow's no big deal. Yeah, and I have a whole new acclimation that I'm doing this year where I'm like, I refuse to bundle up. I'm like, I'm walking the dog. I'm gonna put like the lightest of layers on so that when it really gets cold, I'll be like, I'm sweating here. He's like, are you sick? I'm like, no, I'm acclimated to Indiana weather. So, yeah.
Well, let me say this too about the wonderful sister of mine. There you go again, disappearing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to access my notes, unfortunately. Well, actually, let's see if my computer I can get it over here. All this Mac stuff is linked.
Tap into the brain as much as you possibly can, because we can do like what we've done before. I would say like let's marinate on this subject a little bit, because honestly, I think it was some really good topics that we were teeing up, and I didn't have time to really prepare for it this week. But I think
we were talking about
based on what we'll have to talk about, you'll have enough in your memory if you can't happen to access all of your notes. I know that feeling though. When we've done some of our brainstorming sessions, I've always tried to take notes, and it's frustrating when you can't do it. But so my wonderful sister here though was invited here this evening because we were driving, but things happen like this between her and I, which she's a big fan of the cast. She motivates me to keep going, honestly, sometimes, because I'll randomly get a text message from her or something like, hey, I've been experimenting with the probiotics and they've been working out well for me and this and that. And she'll corrected me last week that you actually said, Ruderai, or however you pronounced it. Your pronunciation was actually correct, and she corrected me on that, even though I still beg to differ that it's still Rutieri, depending on who you ask. But
that way I can.
Things happen like this, so we'll go shopping on the route here, so on Highway 10 from Phoenix to Sierra Vista, and we took a long journey to get here, and we stopped, of course, to get our superfood snacks to make sure that we keep in keeping with the Left Coast Caveman nutritional modalities. So again, for the audience, Left Coast Caveman is nutritional modalities, fitness modalities, and mentalities for better well-being, supreme well-being. And things will happen like, oh, what did you get in your bag?
What's in your basket?
What's in your basket? And it'll end up being like the same stuff. And because she's into a lot of primitive well-being, a lot of superfoods and stuff like that. So I don't know how long you'll kick it on the cast, but as long as you want to stay here. But she's a subscriber and definitely representing the Left Coast Cave ladies. So hopefully we can have her on more often to talk about some of those things that maybe we're not as attuned to, like how these things, when we talked about optimization for nutrition, fitness, and mentality, maybe bringing some things to the cast that are from a Left Coast Cave ladies perspective. One thing that comes to mind particularly that I feel like we should have a cool conversation with her on, or have her to come talk about, was going through well, let me you tell him.
Well, that will like turn into the whole thing.
No, tell them about the time where, even if you give them like the truncated version of the time where you sort of used mentality and fitness modality and nutrition all in one to kind of redo your whole life.
Well, I'll give you a snapshot and then we can like dive into it some other time. But I was very miserable at my job because I wasn't progressing. It was a new role. I'd been there, and possibly even at this point, it might have even been almost to a year. It was. I'll have to rethink what the time frame was. My brain's a little bit muddy from traveling right now. But wherever I was along my journey, I did not feel as though I had been progressing rapidly enough, and it was like really bothering me. Because I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but like I'm used to understanding things and seeing progress and seeing growth, but I was stagnant and I was miserable because of it. So the very long story made short is I called my boss I said, I'm putting myself on a 60-day probationary period. I'm taking 1 week vacation effective like right now, taking a week off, clearing my mind. And I'm going to figure out how in 60 days I can turn this thing around. And with everything changed from I wasn't consuming alcohol. I was very strict with my diet. I was very strict with fitness. I was very strict with my spirituality. From affirmations to, you name it. I was like, every single thing will change. And in so doing, every single thing did change. And now it's like, they can't figure me out. I'm like an enigma to them still. It's like, you just keep on that path of like making sure that you're taking care of yourself first. And like things do fall into order in your business life, in your personal life. And we can, again, like that's a story. That's a long story. But yeah, we were kind of just shooting that one around. He's like, you should talk about that sometime.
Well, because Nick and I have a similar story.
So my question to you, it sounds really effective and like what a good punctuation point, but what about maintenance on that? Do you think that's like a sustainable like state where you're at right now, or is this something you'd have to periodically revisit, or like how do you maintain that new enigma you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that a lot of things did stick. A lot of things that definitely stuck with me. But I have to recalibrate often. If I'm not so strict with myself that I'm like, I'm absolutely not going to consume alcohol ever again. It's now going to be a demonized thing. Like, no, for a period of time during that 60-day period and even longer, that was something I did not touch. Is that something that I do now? Yes. If I want to, we were like, we want to have hot toddies. We're having hot toddies. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, I encourage it.
I kind of like it. So who is that?
Yeah, but there are so many different elements that I checked all at once that
there's one point where you're like,
you get a little bit loose, you get a little bit comfortable, and then you figure out how to recalibrate. Again, like maybe this area in my life needs some recalibration. Maybe I need more sleep. Maybe I've been lazy as heck. I haven't been working out. That's for sure. With the exception of like I walk a lot, but I haven't been like going to the gym like I used to, or you might get a little bit loose in your diet or whatever it is, but I'm constantly recalibrating. I feel like that is what I do often. I do that more than I do anything else.
Get it all into the video.
Well, it ties to our purpose. I think that's what hit me the most was that's exactly what we're trying to build, or building, let's say, is a resource or a database through which people can recalibrate as we recalibrate, but know that there are certain alarming moments in life. I don't know what triggers that for you. If it's a sense of not, we often talk on the cast about having an ideal sense of purpose and progressing towards it, which mirrors a lot of what you're saying. And for some people that's within their career, but really it's kind of an all life thing. It's like an overwhelming sense of stagnation or like lack of happiness or lack of joy, lack of fulfillment in what you're doing. And often what do people do in those moments? I'll go talk to my doctor about it and get put on this pill or that pill or medicate in some way, when it's really about doing the hard work and putting in the hard checks. But then too, knowing that it's all interrelated. What I love about what you've done, I'm looking at you on the screen. I'm not doing the deal.
I'm looking at you too.
So we don't have weird moments.
I'm waving at you right
now. Recognizing that it's all interconnected, that you
I guess I could grind beans.
Recognize that it's nutritional, it's mental, and it's movement. That's what we talk about here. So it's cool. It's just
I don't care what my plans are. If I want to eat,
it was funny to me because we were.
I don't care if I'm going out.
I'm like, wow. Well, our cast was sort of born out of that same thing.
Yogurt instead
you
of
and I
eggs.
having these conversations and talking about, or this community, this
It'll be a
movement
minute
about
before that happens anyway.
understanding that it's all interconnected and it is a hunting and gathering experience. It's what are you hunting and gathering to put into your mind? What are you hunting and gathering to put into your body? What kind of fitness modalities are you doing? Are you getting sunlight? You know, Natalie is doing all kinds of different things that I need to learn about. Like she's pouring little lotions on her hands in the car and like smelling them, and I'm like, what is that? Defense. And I'm like, put that on me and let me smell it. And it's like, and it like opens up. It's opening up like my cognitive functioning, and it's calming. You know, like, and there's a lot of areas that we haven't delved into that would be cool to kind of bring you in every once in a while to talk about these things, but also knowing that it's for the same purpose. You know, I look in your bag and you've got the ancient nutrition, collagen, bone broth, protein, and these kind of things that we talk about here, and just knowing how they work for you and just kind of integrating that every once in a while would be kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of, and she's been a fan and all this kind of stuff, and definitely I would say just a left coast cave person. Yeah. So it's cool to have more people on the deal. But I get into the subject at hand. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience this week and see if it provides a unique segue into what you are planning to talk about and which I'm excited to learn about. And that was I was in my hotel bed. I've been staying in hotels all week.
Bring up hot water.
And
no, because that water isn't hot enough.
Turning in at like 2:00 in the morning, something, you know, the life on the road gets a little bit wild sometimes. And I'm in my bed and I hate it when the sheet, this is like a Seinfeld episode, right? That when the sheets are like tucked really hard into the corners and you got to like kick your legs, right? To get them all out, and you got to kick them hard. I mean, sometimes it's like, it's a fitness modality in and of itself to get those sheets untucked. So I'm in the bed, right? Lights are off, and I'm kicking the sheets, and sparks are flying, dude. Yeah. I'm starting to have fun with it. I'm like kicking, and like it's a freaking light show in my room, right? And
you tell a good story.
All right, where am I going with this? Well, I didn't sleep very good that night. Could be a lot of things, but I'm starting to wonder if our bodies are susceptible to like electromagnetic frequencies and what that might do to it. Negative. I've heard about some influencers out there using wool socks, for example, which I know you wear, Natalie.
I do,
because they ground you. You could walk
socks, no socks.
You could walk barefoot and they ground you, but there's like certain things that people do with their clothes, even if they get them out of the dryer, to prevent that electromagnetic or the static electricity. So using that just as a fun way to kick off the subject of
electricity.
Being digitized. We're constantly connected to devices, to lights, to fluorescent lights. You know, I had a headache after sitting in meetings all day under fluorescent lights, but certainly there are some benefits to being connected to electric devices. You have some to speak of this week, I know. And so with that, I'll yield the floor to you.
Yeah, well, before I get into that, interesting on the wool. Wool is such a great material. First off, have you ever seen how expensive wool is to buy, like the socks or even like a sweatshirt? Like, I used to do a lot of backcountry backpacking. And the industry standard, even when I was in the Army, the industry standard is you always use wool socks. And why is that, right? Wool socks, one, it gives you a nice amount of cushioning, doesn't give you hot spots.
Water did not get hot enough, so
you get a real good one. And it also has this amazing wicking ability where if it gets wet and whatnot, you still retain some insulation. So like wool is kind of the industry standard when it comes to socks and other materials. And man, like socks, I think for a pair you spend like $25 on some smart wool socks. And I feel like I fucking wash them the wrong way every time because the wool just starts flaking off everywhere, and before you know it, I need another pair after 6 months. But I mean, like for a shirt, if you want to get a nice wool, like just an undershirt, it'd be like $70 REI. So clearly something going on
Trash
with
cans
the
upside
wall.
down.
I didn't know anything about the
Daddy.
grounding aspects of it, though. What does that mean? Like, you can wear it and still be grounded with the ground, so it doesn't insulate, I guess, against.
I'm gonna go
How's that work?
and call Daniel. We'll be right back.
Yeah, well, you can measure.
Might as well.
Like, you can. There's devices. I'm not going to speak like I'm an expert on this subject. I just know that there are different ways that you can ground. When you put on shoes, and you can hold devices in your hand to measure the electric frequency throughout your body, and if you're grounded to the earth. And if you're wearing shoes, you're not grounded. If you're barefoot, you're grounded.
Right, rubber.
And wool, wool is a conduit that can keep you grounded in the earth. Like if you're walking with wool socks, it's promoted for people who live in cold climates that want to go barefoot but are concerned
If it's beyond 3 millimeters, then you're pushing it or something.
You know, it'd be cool if my barefoot trainer maybe had some sort of wool composite, because I mean, granted, it's California, so don't make fun of me too much from the Indiana folks. But it was a little nippy today on my run, and I opted to not use my barefoot trainers. And I put on some actual running shoes to do my run, because it was just kind of, I want to wear socks.
Right?
And granted, I think as soon as I maybe run the first, within the first quarter of a mile, I'm probably warmed up. It's not even an issue, but it's hard enough as it is to get outside. I mean, I won't be able to send you a screenshot, but I was looking at my my thermostat. You know me, I'm a bit of a miser when it comes to electricity. I must get that from every dad that's ever lived. But today it was below 50 degrees in my house.
Oh wow!
Yeah, dude. It was like both, like it was all the way to the left. Like 50's last
you guys are already
past that below, so I don't even know what that means.
That amount of time, all of your walking years up until however old you are, 38 years old.
It gets cold in the Crockett Cave. I've experienced that.
Yeah, I think last time I saw you do some work here.
Well, that's problematic.
You might have had like ski gloves on. You're trying to type on your computer over here.
Yeah, it gets really cold in your house.
Right off and just
but
you're gonna.
It's interesting you mentioned
everything
the
from your
electrostatic, energy fields, whatnot. I went down the rabbit hole many moons ago, thinking about
everything has been.
How often do you go hiking or camping or
not enough?
Not enough. Okay.
Used to be at least once or twice a week, and now I haven't in a while.
Do you remember your last time you went hiking and camped and maybe didn't have Wi-Fi, or you usually have Wi-Fi when you're camping, or in the opposite?
I know where you're going with this. Yeah, like anytime, and I was just talking about, because I'm in Arizona today, I'm in Arizona right now. Of course, I've been in Arizona all week, but yeah, I know where you're going with this. When you're away from Wi-Fi signal, or you're in a place like Sedona, Arizona, is known to have healing properties. When you're in a place without Wi-Fi, around a lot of really clean energy, you don't necessarily notice it right out of the gate, but you do notice it. And we are energy, right? We are energy. I mean, and so is that where you're going with this? Like if you're in a place without Wi-Fi, there's something about it that is palpable.
Yeah,
you can feel it.
I think
you feel it. And I can only speak to my experience, and as you mentioned, I don't do it enough, man. Maybe once a year.
I'm gonna take this first.
I skipped maybe the last couple of years, so I'm due. But one of the things I used to love doing is going up to Kennedy Meadows, up kind of by Snort Pass, whatnot, just trip around for a few days, just backpacking, fishing, and getting lost, right? And out there, I mean, you accept the fact that there is no Wi-Fi. So you have your phone, but it's essentially just a piece of glass, right? It doesn't do anything. It's fucking a timekeeper, if you will. So you have no Wi-Fi, and I'll tell you what, man. In the morning, you wake up and you feel different. Especially, I think it takes maybe like a day or two, like to kind of clean it out. But
interruption words.
Man, it was an interesting calm that I hadn't experienced in a while, and because I had that contrast more than because I've been doing this all my life, and I never noticed it. But I think now Wi-Fi is so fucking ubiquitous. Meaning it's everywhere. I mean, I'm driving down in Sacramento, Vacaville area today, and there's these palm trees, these fake palm trees that like the Wi-Fi towers and shit. So it's all over now, and I don't think it was always to that degree in 5G and all that. Who knows? But like, it's more powerful than ever, and I think it does have some sort of cumulative effect. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just different. Like when I go up there and that influence is absent from my body. I definitely felt more of a calmness that I haven't felt in a long time. It was noticeable, and it got me wondering. And I didn't put it all together at that time, but I definitely understood. Like I shifted into a different gear. And so, long story short on it, I actually went down the rabbit hole when I bought my house. I was looking to insulate my room, my bedroom from Wi-Fi. It's amazingly expensive to do that. You know, like a lot of influencers talk about that and about, you know, like, and they try to sell you these paints. It was like $600 for these paints. They're like, and you know, the on your walls, and then you have to put the film on your window, and that seems fine and dandy. And I wanted to do that, but then I thought, well, fuck, man, like, you know, sometimes I need that. You know, if I need I don't know, man, if I need to communicate at night, or it just seems like something about like having my having my it seemed inconvenient, so I didn't go through with it.
I haven't been out
Sometimes I get an email from bed, and this sounds terrible. Nobody should do that, but you know, sometimes you do. And I like having that convenience, or you know, I like having the ability to communicate rapidly for my day if I need to. It seems to be like a, you know, safety thing as well, but I'm also one of those guys, and this is probably the wrong thing you should never do, but I, you know, first thing in the morning, I'll check out some YouTube, man. I'll get some videos, get some education before I start.
There is no right and wrong.
My routine, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I, you know, essentially insulate myself from that. So I'm still intrigued. I still kind of want to do it, and maybe I just need to get rid of that phone habit in the bedroom. But I think there's something to it for sure. More, I mean, I would say more so than I mean, I don't know. I don't know what affected you. If it was, you know, static electricity issue, or maybe there's more static when, and you know, some more research could be had on this, but you know, is the Wi-Fi somehow interacting with static? Would it create more? I don't know, maybe.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, but clearly there are markets made through people being influenced by fear. And I heard a really great quote this week to tie this into a LCC mentality here, and into where do we land on this subject from a cave meditation standpoint. Be more motivated by courage than fear. So don't go wearing a tinfoil hat and painting your whole house in $600 a square foot paint for the sake of blocking out wire, you know, dirty electricity. That being said, there are things to be mindful of. We are energetic beings. Be mindful and make an effort to get into nature and get away from your Wi-Fi. I make a specific effort to not always carry my phone on my person. Carry it in airplane mode more often. You know, be courageous in the sense of being mindful of your energy. You don't have to do it out of fear, right? And that's really important to me, is to make sure that everybody understands you're doing this out of mindfulness, that you're energetic. So cave implementation or cave meditation on this mentality would be, you know, ground daily, get out into nature, at least a couple times a week where you're completely away from Wi-Fi signal. We'll look into wool as a follow-up. Is there an opportunity to be more mindful of your garments? I think that might be a little woo-woo, but I might be surprised by that. Maybe there is a lot to be learned about static electricity, but any area that you can,
Wi-Fi, his bottom lip like quivered, like
get rid of Bluetooth signal. Don't wear I've heard that the earbuds that are wireless are like really bad because they shoot kind of like a Bluetooth signal through your brain, like connecting the two instead of having like a old school wired headset. But all this like new technology, I mean, just stick to the basics, I would say. Like, should you feel bad about using internet? No, I mean, it's kind of ubiquitous and you need it today. It's everywhere. But should you start your day with it every single day? Should you use it? Be mindful of how often you use it. How often do you need it? Can you carry your phones in airplane mode more often so you're not constantly just checking it and being tuned into that electricity? And I would say, minimum like once or twice a week, get completely off the grid, completely in nature, and just know that your body was intended to be away from those signals all the time. So the more you can try to get rid of them, the better.
Yeah, I mean, it is a new form of pollution, right? I mean, and I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, I don't believe it's necessarily negative, but it is a new environmental factor that's everywhere. There's a challenge in that. I mean, in my, where I live by a big city, right? There's nowhere around me, and I do a lot of mountain biking, trail running.
I can't get outside of it, guys.
So it might be a challenge to do that, and not say because it's a challenge you shouldn't do it, but it would require a concerted effort to drive a few hours to get away from any sort of Wi-Fi, right? And when it comes to
the beach once a week,
I mean, the beach got internet, buddy. all the beaches I go to up and down the coast over here by San Francisco. So I mean, I'm not saying it's
A lot
impossible.
of them have really bad Wi-Fi though, and like the sand does a really good job. It's like the sand is a particularly strong component of grounding to the earth, and you can like full body ground into the earth. So I mean, it's just there's never, like you're saying, it's never going to be a perfect scenario, but if you're being mindful of it and making an example, what are you going to do if you can't get to the beach every day, right?
What am I going to do? What am I going to? We have plenty of spots in good old Indiana where I can escape it. I was going to say though, as you were talking about using your phone as an alarm, I think you said something like that, or whatever you had said made me think about the fact that a couple of months ago, I have a tickle in my throat. A couple months ago, I ordered off of Amazon this alarm clock that it lights up bright as the freaking sun. And then I can even like add little sounds. Maybe I want to wake up to birds chirping. Maybe I want to wake up to a babbling brook. I'm not sure. Usually it's birds. But anyways, I took my phone out of my room. So I sleep in a cave. I do. My room is in the basement. Like whatever, I won't get into all that.
She's in a cave.
I sleep in a cave.
Nice.
I keep my phone upstairs. So I have no habit of checking my phone until I absolutely have to. And I work from home, so I clock in at 8 o'clock in the morning. But anyhow, just that step alone of having my phone completely outside of my cave sanctuary where I sleep, and having this alarm clock that wakes me up with the sun, like it's helped my circadian rhythm for sure. I wake up now. I don't even have to wait for the birds to do it. I just wake up as the little sun pops up. So that's been awesome. My energy, I wake up, I'm like ready. I wake up so much happier now.
That was actually my goal.
A noticeable difference when the only thing that I have changed is not having my phone in my room. I don't have any kind of
sun alarm.
I didn't realize how much I was interrupting myself just trying to fall asleep. Where if I'm thinking about something, I might be like, well, I could just reach over and look that up right now before I go to bed. All of those things, it's like I'm free from interrupting that part of my cycle. And then I no longer have the first thing that I do, look at my phone, turn off my alarm, and notice I've got 6,000 emails and 2,000 text messages or whatever. It's like I set the tone for my own day. It's been life-changing. I love it.
Yeah, I think this is kind of leading on to some really cool thoughts and practices. I mean, because we've got a wealth of experience right here. I like that. I like what you're doing. I think that could be definitely a way to approach it. I myself, in thinking about alarms, and I'm somewhat embarrassed to admit this, I don't use an alarm. And the reason I don't use an alarm is because I just get up whenever I get up, and nobody, work-wise, it doesn't matter, right? And I keep my little window shade open, so as soon as the sun starts peeking up around, once again, I don't get up at 3:30 in the morning. I don't get up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm usually a 7 to 7:30 in the morning kind of guy. And sometimes it's later than that, and I don't fucking care. I wake up whenever I wake up, and that's when I start my day. I refuse to use an alarm unless I gotta, fly out somewhere. I literally have a meeting early in the morning before 7 and I have to be on, which doesn't happen, but it could. I don't use it. I haven't used an alarm in, as I said, on a regular basis in years, and that's just, I guess that's a privilege I have. Not everybody has that. But I like that. One thing that I do practice, and maybe to the annoyance of many people in my circle, business and I never have this fucking thing on ring. I don't get notifications about like text messages, phone calls. And during the business day, I hope nobody from my work is listening. I miss a lot. And I'll call them. And the whole reason behind that is I don't want to be distracted and pulled away. I don't want my attentional faculties being pulled away constantly when somebody bing, boom, all these noises. No, fuck that. I get to it when I get to it. And unfortunately, that does sometimes lead to a delay. And of course, if I'm on my phone doing something, I see something come through. I'm more aware to it, or I'm in a conversation with somebody via text or whatnot. But that seems to really kind of help me, and I don't ever want to be pulled away from it. And I've been doing this for a few years now, and as I said, a lot of people would probably like me to change that. Some people in my closer circles, but that's just something I do to kind of keep the sanity. I still would like to maybe take it a notch forward. Like I like that approach to not have the phone around you. My only thought, and I've thought about doing that, but unfortunately, I'm a bit of I'm aware of contingencies, right? So I have, family and whatnot. I'm kind of the point person for emergencies or things go down. I always want to be aware.
Every time I open up
get
Instagram,
a phone call in the night. Hey, somebody's in the hospital. My son's not doing, whatever it might be. Not likely, but it could happen. So that's kind of something that I'm somewhat cognizant of. Although I have my phone on silent, so even if it does ring, I'm not going to hear it. And there's one funny anecdote of that happening, and I remember it's a few years back. I had my phone on silent, and I woke up kind of late. I had a night of fun, and I remember I get to a bunch of text messages and phone calls, and I looked at one of the top of my jiu-jitsu instructors, and he goes, "Hey man, I'm like, what are you talking about?" He goes, and I'm texting like, "What do you mean, man?" He goes, "Hey dude, like, bro, I've been
trying to get away from it."
And I'm like,
I'm trying.
No clue. He goes, "You should go outside." And so I go outside, and dude, it's all smoky. And there's literally a wildfire burning. And I think it looked like the apocalypse. The whole bridge was covered in the other side was covered in flames. It jumped over the water. And
I wanted to interrupt you on
this too.
Or already had. And I was
is
still
going
here.
on and on and on. You had a wild night.
That was like, obviously, it ended well. The house was good. Nothing,
and he blames it on
too bad happened.
Not having his phone. I'm like, what's the main thing that changed?
If it was really bad, they maybe got burned up.
The one thing that had changed
So I'm a little
was not
annoyed on that.
was not the phone. The phone wasn't the factor. But the factor was he had a really party hard night the night before.
I certainly want to. It sounds calming.
It's like that was the factor that had changed.
I'm going to take a hard stance against this because
sometimes I gotta.
Yes, and I hear exactly what.
That's what I was trying to do.
What you're saying, and
that's how we play. That's how we kind of interview. He's very.
Well, both of you are saying, but again,
scientific.
I mean, there's merit to that, right? Part of being the left coast caveman is that we do integrate technology into our existence, and it's a plus.
He's on the coast.
It's a net positive for us. But again, being motivated more by courage than fear,
right?
You're primed for survival.
There you go, like hardcore life.
You don't. The more we rely on devices and technology for our survival, the more we lean towards the left coast and less left towards the caveman. And I think that that's okay. We can be somewhere in the middle. But what I mean by being mindful of the fact that we are energy and that we are still the DNA that's inside us is the same DNA of our ancestors that were not around any of this stuff. And guess what? We're here. And they went through way harder times than we did. We're all Irish here, so we know they survived the Normandy invasion, starvation, constant war, constant famine. And guess what? We're still here. And being bolstered in that courage to turn it off and say, my son's going to be okay. And I know that. But again, I think that that's okay. And why that's okay to use that is because, again, like, I think being mindful of the energy and the technological devices that we digitize ourselves and wire ourselves. The cave meditation here is
you got your phone a little bit later.
Be intentional, not habitual. You've got intention behind it. You don't use an alarm clock. You have an alarm system. Awesome. It's an intention. There's intentions built within those. I keep this on because right now I have some sense in me that's saying, I'm not going to turn it off right now because what if something goes wrong with my son? That's an intention. Question if that's built around courage or fear. I mean, yes, could that happen? Maybe, and that's part of that is, I mean, you've got a history of infantry and stuff like that too, but for our audience, for people, I would say be intentional, not habitual. Intentionally, for the sake of your energy source, shut it down. Get away at least twice a week. I would say get completely away.
Knees over toes guy.
Start with once a week. Start with finding time that you can get away for an hour and completely shut down and use that time for meditation, or find a place that has a really shitty Wi-Fi signal that you can't be bothered by it, because this stuff, as we mentioned before, does physiologically impact you. And there is a reason why Sedona, Arizona is a place of healing, renowned for healing. There's a specific energy source that flows through there, and it's natural, and it's preserved, and it's not adulterated through all of this
My armpits are stanking.
Wi-Fi signal towers and 5G and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to get like fearful about that stuff, but I am going to be intentional about it and try to be more intentional and be intentional with my grounding. Yeah, I'm barefoot right now because I know it connects me to the earth. But Also being
Anyways, he
intentional
was
with how
saying-
you use it.
Lady at the desk was.
So is there anything wrong with a fitness modality that includes technology? No, that can help us become more
multiple times.
We couldn't like
more
for 30
fit,
minutes straight. I sat
more
there and
supreme
solved it.
beings. And that's,
'Cause I was trying
that's,
to get them to turn
you didn't catch
off.
that. That's the switch into the fitness modality.
Yeah.
So,
I totally ignored the first one. I kind of took it on that tangent with Wool because he got me thinking. But so taking the lead.
Yeah,
on
but
that,
the awesome.
man. So I'm a big wearable tech guy.
I thought something happened to you.
I don't know when it started
Okay,
maybe a few years
she was
back,
like-
but I've always had
Drama. And I'm thinking,
Fitbit.
you're like on a
oh,
personal
look at
phone
that.
call that far away
Beautiful.
from
Like
your
that background.
duties that many times.
I've always been a wearable
That
tech
long?
guy, and
it's backwards.
yeah, I think it's right.
There's our logo in the back.
Okay, on our end, it looks
Spot on.
mirrored.
Oh, interesting.
We'll see how it turns out on the
It would be.
rollback.
Yeah, but I've just
Does
always
look
been
good.
really interested in like
Over
science,
here, it looks like it was.
you know, obviously I was a science major. I love science,
Could be.
and understanding the
that's
quantifiable things. And
Part
it kind
of
of
the
it
deal.
led
It's
me
like it,
to, well,
something that
not
opens
get too
up
far ahead of my skis here. Let me give more background. But
first
you know,
glance.
had a Fitbit for a long time, Apple Watch. I've been
So what's this?
had at least 3 polar chest strap
Intergalactic.
janitors, you know, and whatnot. Now I mean, all those, they had their pluses and negatives, right? I'm a bit
know that that's
off
a
on the
lift.
polar, and there's an article I recently wrote on leftcoastcaveman.com. It's under fitness modalities, and it's titled "Recovery, Man or Machine." And I kind of go into some of the history of like my experience
Let me
with
see.
wearables, as well as my recent one, which I'll admit, man, I'm incredibly impressed with the Whoop strap, and that's one that I'm using. I want to say I maybe had it for the last maybe a week or two, about a couple weeks or more,
It
and
surely
absolutely just floored with
Let
the
me
way
see
this
it.
thing performs. And you know, if you look at like the old Fitbits, usually those would just give you steps. It would give you they might have been heart rate monitors at that time. I'm not sure. They'll give you a rough estimate of caloric expenditures. And
I think
whatnot.
it's an odd
The
coincidence.
polar, kind of a similar protocol, but all those, they would break on me. They wouldn't last very long. The interface on like the apps weren't great in terms of collating the information and providing any sort of insights. And I think that's where the Whoop strap really flowers into itself and provides something that stands alone from all the other ones. It's this wearable device. I have it on my wrist. And
What was
it
in
does
this cup?
so much more. I mean, it's essentially centered around recovery.
Was
And
this your cup?
I think as science and fitness, the mysteries are unveiled more so. We're starting to realize
Of
just how
coffee with
important
something in it.
right? We always thought
do
that
hotel
we're
workouts?
grinding out every day, fucking getting after it. 10 miles every day, wake up in the morning, shit, doesn't matter. Go run your 10 miles. And all those
So here's your idea.
influencers out there and will tell you that, you know, that's the mentality you need to have. That's how you get results. And I think there is some utility to that for sure. But I've noticed, especially as I'm getting older, I'm leaning more towards training
Small things
more
that I can
intelligently
do,
and
like instead of
understanding
this,
the
here,
rhythms of recovery
this.
and what my body needs, and you know, maybe doing that grind every day is, you know, for a long period of time. I mean
But
even last year, I get sick a lot. And
Atkins?
and it's kind of a joke for many people because, like, dude, you're the healthiest guy I know. How are you getting sick so much? Why are you sick again?
As you check it off,
Well, I think a big
fill
part of
in,
that, and there's some
more.
literature written on that, but it's like you're overtraining. You're probably not getting the right amount of rest, and you're going after it because that's what you do every day, and you're not listening to your body. And maybe a lot of those signals are somewhat subtle, and you're not measuring them. And you should be. You should be. I'm not saying you need to be led by it. It means to control what you do, but I think it could provide some insights that optimize your training. And that's
What
where the
does it
bootstrap
look
comes in.
like?
I think it's really
What
cool
does it
because
look
it's
like
more
to
centered
you?
around giving you an. So there's like 3 tenets of the bootstrap, right? You have your recovery,
And maybe
which is like, I think the overall that recovery goes to strain, which is like your activities for the day, how you work out, you know, that it'll calculate all that stuff for you as you work out. You don't have to set it if you're gonna do a run or whatnot. You just go on the run, you click it, night visit, and then it goes in, and then with sleep, you actually don't have to. What I thought was really interesting, it knows when you're sleeping, so it provides that range for when you sleep and when you wake, and it takes all that information, your past workout, your current sleep, and it at the point is establishes a baseline of all these things. So it understands the heart rate variability, understands your resting heart rate, your respiratory rate, your blood ox. There's a few other ones. Who's cool? heart rate, resting heart rate variability, respiratory rate, blood oximetry, skin temperature, and then sleep performance. Takes all that into account after establishing these baselines, and it provides recommendations every day. And it says like, oh, today, hey, you're 99% recovered, dude. This is a day where you need to get after it. This is a high intensity day for you. And there's even modes where you can click on it. You want to peak at a certain time, it'll help modulate how much sleep you need every day, and based off your recovery metrics, and it helps like kind of build out your workout. And it's really fucking interesting. It gives you like, you know, I boozed pretty hard the other week, and it showed me my sleep sucked. My REM sleep was garbage. It shows you the little, shows you how much you were in REM and how much was recovery, how many times you woke up. It's super interesting. And the next day, I mean, and it was congruent with how it felt. It said, hey, you haven't really recovered very much. Your workout should be somewhere within this range. Focus more on recovery. And I'm like, wow, this is such a cool technology.
It could be like price.
And it's, I mean, if I really was feeling it, I'll still go work out. Whatever. It's just a cool suggestion. But I'm just thinking like, well, maybe that's a missing like link to overall optimum, you know, adaptation, right? Taking into like, this is a way to get the insights into recovery, which we don't really focus on. This, it's more ephemeral, right? Which think like, I feel all right, or I don't feel good, whatever, I'm gonna work out. And this will give you an idea, like based off these actual metrics. And I know like heart rate variability is a really big area of science right now in the physiologicals, where people like athletes, Olympians, they pay attention to that. They look at it in the morning and go, hey, how much did I recover yesterday's workout? And that kind of dictates how hard they're trying to push the next day, because they understand that once you cross that threshold of too weak and you're not recovering and you keep bearing on exertion, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get an injury. And that kind of leads me to like one of the books I recently read, was called Play On, which is amazing. I gotta put a comment on it.
Bible app, and I have it.
But one of the big themes of that book was managing your fatigue. And it's such a weird concept that we don't ever think about that. We think about, oh no, you need just like, you need to fucking go out there and exert yourself.
The only reason why I like that,
that's part of it, most certainly. But what if it was 50-50? Half of it was, you know, your fatigue, meaning your exertion, and the other half was your recovery, and that all adds up to your overall adaptation. I think that's what I like about Bootstrap, is it's giving me a new dimension of thinking about recovery and understanding in real time, like fucking what was the effects of my sleep, or even think about like with food, or if you worked out really hard, you know, multiple days in a row, and it'll give you an exertion metric for each day. And it'll tell you, hey, today you're not recovering. You gotta tone it down. And you wouldn't know about that. I mean, if you're really in tune to your body, maybe you could, or maybe you're a hard-headed person. You're a daily dog and say, I'm gonna do it anyways. And
it would have been good.
He goes on.
That leads to in terms of getting sick. And once you get sick, how long does that take you out of the game? No, it's almost like that sickness. It's like your body gets on like natural. Like break, like emergency break, just fucking pulls and say,
he goes
hey man,
into
no
his
more.
brain
You're sick.
for information.
You're fucking stuck for a week and a half.
He goes into his brain and he just starts firing off.
You know, whatever it is. You think about, you know, one of the theories behind it, like MMA, when especially when like athletes have to take a lot of hard hits, they get knocked out a lot. They're more prone to it. And one of the theories, and I don't know how much I buy into it, but I see the merit of it somewhat, is the fact that like your body's shutting down after like somewhat not that hard of a blunt force trauma is a way to preserve the social platform. It's like your body saying, shut the fuck off, no more activity, you're done. You know, so I'm super impressed with it. I'm still understanding kind of how to put it all together, but I'm super impressed with it. I think it's absolutely amazing. But as we talked about already, it's like, is it necessary? How necessary is that? You know, how distracting is the fact that I'm constantly looking at this fucking thing and playing with it? We
usually do it on
you know, it doesn't take away from other things.
Monday sessions.
In this case, and for me,
that are like
brainstorming, I would say it's not. I think this is a total benefit and a way to like just optimize and also know like what effects your media environment are having on your everyday recovery workouts. And I think that's a cool insight that you might not be privy to if you're not really paying attention to it. And you know, I was thinking about talking about quotes, and kind of coming up with their own quotes. And one that, and I'm sure you're familiar with. Have you ever heard of Peter? Okay, so he's like, okay, so he's early 1900s. He's like the godfather of
I don't know where the other one is.
Like corporation philosophy. Some say he's the one that came up with it. I don't know how accurate that is.
I've been using this
I'm sure you've heard this saying before: is you can't improve what you don't measure, right? The KPIs, right? You gotta know. You have to have measurements, right? Without this, it's somewhat lost. and I totally agree with that. But I also believe that, like, taking this a bit further, like, understanding the measure of input, understanding the measure of output leads to more measurement. And I like that. I'm a data guy also. Like, I don't like to just go off of why are you, like,
what are
why
those
am I doing
called?
this
What are
workout?
they
Well,
called?
I heard it was good for me, or fucking this person said it was awesome, or this is what I've always been doing. This is what a guy taught me at the gym. It's like, no. I need a data approach to why. Every why needs to have like a reason, right? I want to understand what is that resulting from it. So I really like the whole data.
Whatever, but we all know what it is.
But
it is a practice to recognize what yours is.
Your planning, your periodization, and I think it holds so true, man.
Presentations like this.
You can't improve what you don't measure. Hard stop.
So long, awkward.
Can't improve where you don't measure.
Presentations.
Oh.
Just walking around the room.
I'm jotting that one down because what I love most about casting with you, especially if it's 10:30 at night for me, and when you get on these tracks of mind, I mean, like, you'll open up a can of worms, and then those worms will start having baby worms, and then I've got 2 cans of worms to work with, trying to figure out
Raised worms.
how many different angles we could take this thing. But one thing that, I mean, I love the excitement, and like, I know you're going to dig into this, and it's going to be something that is going to open up subject after subject after subject for us to dive into, and I'm really intrigued by the exertion metrics and the rest metrics for future casts. Maybe diving into one at a time, but you mentioned backing up a little bit about like, well, is it necessary? I think this is almost exactly what we were talking about when it comes to being intentional rather than habitual with your technology. And so, if you notice yourself, it's distracting you and you're constantly diving into it, well, then that's where in that moment, okay, this is habitual now, and I need to be more intentional with it. Unless you're setting aside time to specifically work your metrics and figure out how can this benefit my fitness modality? And I think that this is a perfect example of that, because it takes the guesswork out. We've talked a lot about active rest days and rest days on the cast, of like listening to your body. Well, you might be listening to your body and being distracted by 9 million other things, and this thing is actually providing to you a stethoscope through which you can listen to your body, and measurement tools that's going to speak to you, let you listen in different languages, and teach you different languages that you can listen to your body with, you know what I'm saying? So like, it takes the guesswork out, and that's what I love most about it. And because the best trainer that I ever had told me, because I was a go-getter, and I was one of those Goggins types of just, get strong, get active, sweat till you're wet every day, which I prescribe to the sweat till you're wet thing. But he told me, never forget, like, you don't get stronger, better, faster here, being in the gym. He's like, you get stronger, better, faster when you rest. And as I'm resting as I'm nursing a knee injury right now, an elbow and still that knee injury, like, there's truth to that. And to your point, like, how long has it been since I've ran now? It's going to go a month, maybe 2 months before I'll be able to run again and get back into my fitness routine, because I wasn't listening to my body.
I'll eat an orange.
Didn't know all the languages my body could speak to me. So cave implementation of this, be intentional with your technology. It's important for our audience to know we don't have sponsorships with any kind of device, but if it can dive into, the more metrics it can dive into, I would say the better, in measuring sleep, measuring rest, heart rate variability, all those important metrics that we can dive into or provide in the notes, I think are super important. But that would be my key takeaway in terms of like a cave implementation. But we're gonna have to hard pivot, man, into the nutrition. We're running out of time, and Natalie has been gracious enough. It's 2 o'clock in the morning her time, and I really want to include her on this before she falls asleep or cuts out. But we talked nutritional modalities this week, and I didn't have a really good time or enough time to really dive into it, because but we did have a slight argument on the way here, and that was over oranges versus lemons. And so what I want to talk about is, what's the nastiest thing you ate this week? That's a question for both
The
of you.
Black girls?
No, the girls that
What's the nastiest thing you ate this week, and
That's a Texas
what
stuff,
good does
dog.
it do for you?
absolutely Texas stuff.
Oh,
Like
you know
rare
what?
sequins, cowboy
We
hats.
talked because we were going to talk onions and we were going to talk about
Cowboys,
lemons and stuff.
fringes,
And she
frills,
was
tassels.
talking about stuffing lemons into her kid's sock.
The band plays. They
Onions.
stand in the
Onions
stands.
into her kid's socks when she sleeps.
No idea.
So, if we were going to talk about onions,
Weird.
it's our lucky day,
Right.
sir, because we get to hear from somebody who stuffs onions into her kid's socks when they sleep.
I'm willing to try anything. If
I
I think
like-
it's
Get
gonna.
in there
I
a
like
little
that it
closer
kind
so
of
you
seemed
can
like Nick
Hey.
thought I had like a little tribal
I
secret.
am willing to try anything if it's natural, and if somebody else has said, "Hey, it worked for me,"
Like,
I'm that
wish I
person.
had more.
I'm like,
That'd be awesome.
go to
But I say
to
that. What do I
some
know?
Whole Foods
I've only
store
had one.
and get an organic white onion, cut up some slices and put them on top.
Why the onions in the
It's the way that your feet, I guess, absorb. I mean, your feet absorb a lot, and that's one way of getting that good old onion juice into your system.
Something to follow up with your husband.
Wow.
So what
Did
if
you-
Those guys go, sorry if I smoke onions.
It's supposed to help you like fight off the virus.
You put wool socks?
I like
Are these
their
wool
outfits.
socks that you're wearing as you're stuffing onions in?
If you're mean, yeah.
I dig it. By the way, as we speak, there's another Left Coast Cave lady, a partner in the cast that will be knitting Left Coast Cave
They just go
wool
like
socks.
this.
I guarantee you this. This is going to happen.
Tassels.
Yeah, necessary. I'll wear them.
And,
Yeah,
You
it's
stuff onions in them?
but when she picked,
no,
said that she
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We do a lot of kicks.
What's
High kicks.
interesting about onions? So I went
Have
down
you
the
ever
rabbit
just
hole on onions.
Done a
Granted, I don't have a lot of.
in the morning? You have any idea how good
I
it
don't-
feels?
Here's what I've noticed
Right.
about many of these like
Right.
vegetables and fruits
Especially
and
with
whatnot. They like, yeah, some of them have certain attributes, but it seems like there's a common rubric that they all have. They're all anti-inflammatory. They're all good for the immune system. I mean, like it's just time and time again, and it makes it incredibly hard for me to retain what does what. Oh, why am I eating this orange? Well, vitamin C. Well, what else? You know, I'm eating asparagus, and it seems like all of them have all these amazing attributes that are good for the immune system.
Why am I
Fight
doing this?
inflammation?
Oh, I'm
Are
eating
great
this
for
orange. Why am I
neural
doing
health
this?
and whatnot. So there's something there. Onions are great now for your like in your footwear and your socks. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I think what got me started, I heard, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, and I found myself listening to an Andrew Tate fucking video, and he was talking about
Wow.
his new trainers with their, out in the Dagestani mountains or whatnot, and they're all eating fucking onions, and I eat a lot of onions because I like
That's
it.
why I
I'm like,
used
well,
to
that's
edit.
interesting.
I
They were
used to
talking
edit
about the
out his F-words. I used to
testosterone
put a little
benefits
flap
of
in
it. I
there.
was like, okay, well,
And I was gonna make
I'm a
sure to have a
PubMed
nice-
fucking kind of guy. Like, I want to.
Tell him he needs to work on it.
I couldn't find anything that supported onions and testosterone. And one thing I would say is let's not forget the power of the placebo.
I have told
If you believe it works, it
I
fucking
said, why
works.
don't I
You know,
said we
I
should
am a huge fan of it.
we should be mindful of
It
the
is
fact
a
that we
noted,
want
one
our
of the
audience
most
to be
noted
as large as
psychological
It's diverse
possible.
as
and
possible.
actual physiological fucking phenomenon. I guess
Like,
that's
I
what
wouldn't
we're
watch
together,
that with
but
my kids.
that's a real thing. That's a real effect. So if you
I don't
believe
know,
that
man.
that onion
I've
in your
tried-
socks
and I've
can
tried
help
to-
with viral protection
But if
and
you would
boost
you
your
watch
health,
it with your kids,
you might convince yourself the power of the mind. So unfortunately, I couldn't
Yeah.
find anything that
And
substantiated
then if we could,
like
you
But
can buy
some people
shirts.
would.
effect.
You can buy shirts
And it's
on
fine
our
because I'm going to
site
continue to eat
that
onions
say
because they're
have a
awesome.
nice-
They taste great, and they have all these other more
Ruby-
scientifically
Ruby
noted
and
benefits. But I think that's the
Or
careful
duck you.
point for anybody out there is,
people would get
you know, and there's
text, like,
if
yeah,
you go on
we
YouTube,
edit out all
you will
this
find
stuff.
everybody
I've told
talking
him
about
to stop doing
testosterone
that.
and
He
fucking
just
onions.
constantly
But
says
if you look at like some scientific, like actual noted, published,
and I've told him
peer-reviewed
because I was like,
scientific sources,
you know, there's a lot of philosophical
Like,
differences between he and I. That's
not
why
gonna-
this is the
not gonna
hub
find it.
project.
At least I
We've
haven't.
got
Maybe
some
I'm not
projects
looking
on the
hard
side.
enough. So, I thought
Everyone
that's
just kinda,
interesting.
like,
I think
hanging
that's
out
as always
on
just
the
one of those cause to
We
caution.
both have
when
the
it comes
same
to-
like
I mean, yeah, if you believe it's gonna help with
like
testosterone, great. Maybe it will for you. At the very least, like you're
So
gonna get some
Brandon was telling me
antioxidants
that
and
he
cut down inflammation and all that stuff.
saw
and
something
you're
on
gonna get
Twitter
more,
of a
you know,
guy,
fiber
like,
and prebiotics
walking
in your system, and so that it's still a win-win.
with the
I just-
video
I'm
self
careful
recording. And I
to
said that's
ever
funny because
assume
I saw
or to
somebody
get swayed
walking
by,
down
like,
that
this
aisle.
one item panacea
Recording.
that help you fucking
Yeah.
get to the next level. Like it just isn't. That
When I was
never
on the-
works that way. There isn't one fucking
What
thing
is it?
that's
Are
gonna
you
do
in
it
it or
for
something?
you.
I don't know.
I
I'm
think
looking to
Is
see.
it from the
everyone's
same
somewhat
airport?
Yeah, it's
cautious
Phoenix
of that.
Airport.
It's you know, and
But I
I
think
use
the
this
guy that
fucking
I
this
saw,
phrase way too much.
he
but,
was
like,
carrying it. He
the
was carrying
the
it
whole
also.
Said it was
is
Sunday.
worth more than some
Well,
of the
there's a
individual parts.
conference
And I
on Sunday, but he
firmly believe that
reported
with
this
diet, with
yesterday.
exercise, and almost everything in life. Like there's all sorts of interconnected influences that are just inextricably linked, and they all provide this amazing effect, right? In the summation. So
I think the
fuck
guy
it.
I
Keep
saw
those
was a
keep those
younger
onions in the
guy,
socks.
and he was
I'm gonna keep throwing on the burgers.
things.
And unfortunately, I'm not sold off the testosterone effect, so maybe I don't have the placebo in my corner on this one. But you know, that's okay.
Hey, well, to be continued. I think that the substantiating some of
You
the
get a good
nasty
sound
things that are out
quality.
there
Is this a microphone?
No, I usually do.
that
I a
have
mic-
health
It's
benefits
in my car though.
is an important nutritional modality
I think I
that we
just
can
have-
continue to uncover.
I think
But I think it ties to the overall
device or
theme
something.
today and like the narrative tie that I see between all of the or the cave implementation of this specific nutritional modality is, again, don't be motivated by fear.
Somebody could check all the boxes
Be
and
motivated by courage
round
in with your nutritional modalities too. And if be courageous about
Well,
what if
no,
it
I mean,
works.
just like, what would
You
it
know,
look
when I
like?
think about
If
us
you were to write
taking a
down,
trip
this
through
is
Sprouts and
plan.
you see a product,
This is the
or
way.
if you're
That's
at
what-
a
These are all
store, you see a
boxes
product
that
and you see
check.
ashwagandha and a clean label,
And listen, amount of
and
boxes
you-
you can.
There is
you
an
feel by
element
purchasing
Oh,
that product
yeah.
that you're doing
You can-
something
I mean,
healthy for your
You could
body,
maybe-
and
but then that-
multiply that out
when I
towards
think
everything
about
you
that,
have in your
you've
basket.
got runway.
Onions, lemons,
Once you
whatever
get like
is in your
this, then you
basket,
can,
fresh produce,
like, crown,
organic,
like, triple up
clean
this.
drinking water as opposed to water out of
Like,
How
just
crazy
plastic
is that?
bottles. I mean, can
Yeah.
we substantiate every
Wow.
single thing? I think we'll find through our nutritional modality discoveries that some are clearly substantial and some of them might be some of that placebo effect, but both working in tandem, you'll achieve supreme and higher levels of well-being by
Supreme
being
being.
focused
The
on that
supreme one.
intention
That would
rather
be
than
the
just being
supreme
habitual. Oh shit, those
LCC.
Cheetos look good, I'm gonna get them. Oh, I'm just going to drink this beer and all the time and not have any kind of nutritional modalities
There's
around that
nothing
to
wrong
kind
with
of offset
I don't think of the supreme
the
one, supreme being, as being
toxification
like
in my
God.
body. Do I have anything that I do? Like we talked charcoal
Oh,
last
yeah.
week that offsets the,
It'd be different if I said like
toxification,
alpha
you know,
and
like
beta.
just
That's
doing
a
things
supreme one.
intentionally rather than habitually
Supreme being.
all across the board. And that
That's our
comes,
slogan. Supreme
we've already
being
talked about the
modern.
technology,
It came
but I think
from
that's kind of the overarching mentality that
Yeah.
flows throughout this whole
We're using
this
biblical
whole
language
subject.
like,
And if it's
here's your
stuffing onions
process
in your
of
socks,
I just wouldn't want to be.
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, like
I'm into it.
Is-
Yeah.
that could be in keeping with, I mean, that
That's funny,
might
'cause
be
Matt Lundin-
something that's brought to
And
us
Ed
from
Mark,
an
I always
ancestral
call him
standpoint.
Supreme
Like,
Lundin, and he loves it.
who knows?
Supreme
It
Lundin.
works for some people. It's if somebody swears by it working, then you know. I thought the foot bath thing kind of put the whole we absorb nutrition and expel toxins through our feet to rest, but some
Get a foot bath.
foot baths still make a lot of money. So it works for somebody, even if it's that placebo effect. And if it works, it works.
Don't even want coffee.
So the
Yeah.
power of the mind is indeed
I don't wanna call-
very
I don't wanna-
powerful, and that could be another. I mean, there's so many. We're gonna have so many
Don't
different
want it if it's
notes
too
to follow up
And
on
you're
as
going
far
down
as
to
a
the-
follow-up subjects, but
You're going
I
down,
think,
down, baby.
you got-
You're street in
the
a
water
Range
is
Rover.
hot.
I wonder if we have neighbors.
Natalie can represent the Left Coast Cave ladies every once in a while. Come on board and tell us how those onions in the socks are doing for her.
Those poor kids, their feet probably just they smell very
For water.
We can get that cleaned out though for the next go around.
No, and that's
Sure,
the
but
most
it's-
bizarre. That's the most bizarre thing.
Where I say
about it.
bootstrap, listen carefully.
I assumed that because I did it too. I assumed my feet would be stinky, so of course I put my foot up to my face like any sane human would do after
course.
stuffing
Yep.
their feet with onions all night. They did not stink, and they were like so much cleaner looking.
I'm sure the acidity in them have something to do with like cleaning up the grime off your feet, but that's also something cool. You know, like people use. I mean, that might be some kind of cool modality that we discover, like people putting cucumbers on their eyes for anti-inflammation and charcoal mud masks and things like that. And I've often thought that we needed to have a micro program, like a 1 or 2 week segment on hygiene ceremonies that are could integrate like the Left Coast Cave ladies, because a lot of what I learned about hygiene in particular has been from women. you know, like, oh yeah, I don't touch that specific product because it has like something in it that's bad, like bad chemical in it, so I don't put that in my hair. And I'm like, what? I don't even know what that means. You know, I don't use that makeup. Like, you and I will not be experts on the whole makeup thing. You know, it's not something that's typical typically that men do. I mean, I'm not saying that not all men don't, but usually Left Coast Caveman, I've not seen one that uses makeup for any particular purpose. But you know, those things that we could spin this off into of, you know, putting natural products on your body. And onion is a natural product, and I'm sure there's a lot of different. I do want to go into lemons though next week because I've been eating raw lemons a lot, and
It's true.
onions and stuff.
Yeah, and the shock value of that, before you know it, other people are trying it, not telling anybody, right?
Right.
I'm fucking curious. But, I mean, this, right? Like, our feet, historically speaking, have always been in contact with surfaces outside of just rubber and shoe and wool sock, right? So maybe there's some restoration of absorption through like using like a constant exposure to the onion, right? Because our feet are never exposed to any sort of like organic matter. So maybe that's a way to like ground some sort of piece of nature. Because you think about onions, they come from the fucking earth, right? They're underground. But by way of like reintroducing this into your shoe throughout the day, like you're constantly kind of grounded, like by proxy in a way, maybe. I'm stretching it. I don't know, but I'm trying to think of the scientific like underpinnings of why there's some sort of benefit to it. And maybe that's what it is. Our feet are just devoid of being, I mean, even when I run in my barefoot trainers, there's a sheath of rubber and a little bit of padding that keeps me, you know, insulated from my feet essentially being exposed or through the skin, through the dermis, taking in any sort of nutrients, or if that's even a thing. I don't know if that happens, but maybe it does. I mean, there are transdermal, we can absorb things through our skin, right? Sunlight, and there's other medications that can get absorbed through the skin. So, you know, what's going on with that onion? I'm intrigued. I don't know if I'm going to do it. Maybe I will. I won't tell you guys. Or maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. But I think there might be something to it. Some sort of
Here's what I need you to do, all right? You're only gonna put your onions in your socks at night. You're not gonna be tromping around on them. All right.
Okay.
That's the first thing you're gonna do. Second thing you're gonna do, you're gonna bootstrap that. You're gonna let me know what your bootstrap says. Is that what it's called? The
whoop strap.
Whoop strap. I thought you said bootstrap. Yeah. Okay. Let your technology tell us.
Dude, yeah, okay. It's gonna be I'm gonna have to do it on a night that I'm by myself because I don't know, like, well, she'll understand. Okay. Yeah,
I like that part.
Just tell her it's part of the cast. But
and this water
one final note, I want to say that, you know, why I love this person next to me so much is we find ourselves in odd situations. Like, we were at dinner this evening, and just as the waitress was coming up to set our food on the plate, I noticed the end of my sentence was, yeah, and that's why when I was a kid growing up, I was constantly afraid of being dropped off at a truck stop and abducted by Satanists. And the waitress is trying not to laugh as she's putting our food down, and can't. She was trying not to laugh like every time she came by our table after that. And I was like, yeah, as you put our food down and then now run away. But imagine you're checking into a hotel at 11:45 p.m. and you look behind you and just see two people sitting here. Hold on, sitting here with this lamp on. With this lamp on here at 11 o'clock at night, talking about strapping onions to your feet.
Normal.
Completely. Go to leftcoastcaveman.com if you want to learn more. Holy smokes. But hey, man.
Caution. Yeah.
Appreciate you, brother.
Pleasure meeting you, Natalie. Finally.
Yeah, likewise. Very, very nice talking with you tonight.
Vidalia. Natalie Vidalia Onion.
Vidalia.
Her new nickname is Vidalia.
Your new name is the cast.
Yeah.